bear markets, market crashes, and investing in retirement this month on the Retirement Answer Man Show. Well, hello there, and welcome to the 2020 edition of the Retirement Answer Man Show. We have Nicole with us this morning. Nicole, Happy New Year, girl.
Happy New Year.
Did you stay up to midnight last night?
I can usually make it right up until midnight, and then I kind of poop out really quickly after that. But we were able to do like sparklers and a few small fireworks with the boys this year because they're outside the city limits. So that was fun.
So you got little ones. That's fun.
Yeah.
I think New Year's is a little overrated for myself, but
really,
yeah. But there are a lot of new beginnings, and we're going to talk about our words for 2020 today. And this month on the show, I think it's important that we talk about bear markets, crashes, and retirement. Because we had an amazing 2000.
I was going to say, it's kind of funny that you want to talk about that after 2019.
Yeah, it was a great year, wasn't it? Market-wise.
Right.
The markets were on fire in 2019. And so everybody's wondering what's going to happen in 2020 and beyond, especially if you're close to retirement. Well, I mean, there's nothing tumultuous coming up in 2020, is there?
Besides that whole election thing?
That's not going to influence the market at all, right? We probably will hardly hear about it in the media.
Oh, yeah.
So
it'll just pass by unnoticed.
No kidding. So actually, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be like hens in the hen house, which are the reporters, and they're going to be thinking wolves are outside the door. The amount of information and cackling we're going to get from the media on all sides is going to create a lot of fear, most likely, because that usually is what happens. So I think it's appropriate this month that we start off talking about how do we deal with market volatility, bear markets, or even market crashes in retirement so you can rock retirement. So that's what we're going to do this entire month. And today we're going to start with 5 ways that investing in retirement is different than investing probably that you've ever done. And in the question and answer session, we're going to reveal our words for 2020, talk a little bit about the Secure Act, and then answer a question from Thomas. There are certain decisions in life that are larger and more important than others. Retirement is one of those high stakes decisions that we want to be thoughtful about. You get that because you listen to this show and probably a lot of others. You're trying to educate yourself on making this decision and transitioning into retirement successfully. And we're blessed to be a part of that journey with you. When it comes to investing the wealth that you've created, one thing that I have observed, not just with individuals, but within our industry, is that there is very little understanding or adjustments to an understanding that investing in retirement is very different than any other kind of investing. And what ends up happening from an advice standpoint, but from an action standpoint, if you're managing your own, is that we try to fit this rectangular issue of investing in retirement into the round hole of how we've invested for decades. And now that baby boomers are just starting to retire, there's more thought into, well, how do you actually invest successfully in retirement? Because that's where the bulk of the money is, the baby boomers. So there's more thought being given to that. But we've built this entire strategy around the accumulation stage of investing in retirement. And there are 5 ways that investing in retirement is very, very different than the way that you have invested probably for your entire life. So I want to cover those 5 today. And this will give us a good foundation as to why we're dealing with this idea of bear markets and crashes in retirement, and how do we invest differently, or how much should we worry about these things. So let's talk about the 5 ways that investing in retirement is different. Number 1 is that the math changes in retirement investing, because we're going to go from accumulation, which is trying to grow assets, to decumulation, trying to harvest our assets to support a life. That's a high stakes transition because we only get one shot at this decumulation stage, one shot at creating this great life, and we don't want to leave it to probabilities too much. So let's think about the math of accumulation, the one that you're probably most comfortable with. That math says we're compounding over a very long period of time. And the way that you do that in a positive way is you have consistent investments over a very long period of time. Think your 401k investments, your IRA investments, any kind of investing that you've done for decades. 2, you are embracing investment risk and long-term averages because you're throwing money in consistently, whether that's weekly, biweekly, or monthly. The more risk you can risk in terms of volatility up and down you can handle, the better off the long-term numbers can be because of compounding. And that's that dollar cost averaging that we've all heard the story of, where when markets go down, especially early in life in our accumulation investing, we're able to buy more shares with the same dollars because prices have gone down. And then when prices go up, we buy less shares. Over time, we can actually outperform the investment that we're in if we're contributing money consistently. And we've embraced that. The most successful investors have embraced that. Just keep throwing money at it. Don't look at your statements too much. Don't mess with it. Control fees and embrace risk. Well, when you retire, the dynamics of that accumulation, the things that benefited it, go away and actually turn on you, because now we are not investing anymore. So we're not taking advantage of market downturns by consistent money going into buying more shares. That goes away. In fact, it's the reverse. If we're accessing money in decumulation, it's dollar cost averaging in reverse. We're taking money out. And if we set it up as doing it in a systematic way, now we're having to sell more shares in bad markets to get the same dollars back that we need to live on. And that can actually exasperate and cause us to do worse than our investments over time because we're selling more shares at lower prices. And then lastly, our time frame compresses. If you're 60 years old, you say you have a time frame of 30 years, living to 90, that seems like a really, really long time. And it is. But from an investment horizon standpoint, you're much more concerned with the early years because of how this decumulation math changes. We need to be sensitive to that in how we invest. So that's one way that investing in retirement is very, very different. The second way that investing in retirement is very different is a little bit more psychological, in that we've lost our superpower. Know it or not, you have had a superpower financially that has driven a lot of your success. And that is your ability to earn income. Boom. That's a big superpower, because your ability to earn income has allowed you to invest systematically over long periods of time, likely increase your investing systematically as your income has grown, and just as importantly, allowed you to earn your way out of a lot of financial missteps. I know that I have earned my way out of a lot of financial missteps. Poor home buying decisions, buying new cars, flitting money away in sometimes undisciplined fashion, but sometimes by choice. These types of things, when we have the superpower of earning income, we can go earn it back. And even more, we can turn, and we at least have the ability to turn that lever. Well, that lever, for the most part, goes away when you retire. You can't go earn your way out of a financial misstep, or just a financial calamity that happens to you that was none of your doing. So how you invest in retirement is even more important because you've lost that ability or it's severely impaired. Anyway, so that's number 2. And that leads to number 3. Behavioral issues get magnified. Because we've lost our superpower or it's impaired, the earning superpower, it puts us back on our heels a little bit psychologically. What we got is what we got. And that makes us hold on to it sometimes a little harder than we need to. And that can cause us to freak out based on the news. Well, think about this. It's sort of like when you have an illness. I have a buddy who just went into the hospital on Christmas Day with pancreatitis. Evidently, one of the most painful things you can get, and is going to cause some major changes for him. Luckily, he is fine. But when he got pancreatitis, he was too out of it to do it, but his family and his friends, us included, were Googling, I need more information on pancreatitis. What does it mean? What are the side effects? What are the long-term possibilities? What could be causing it? Research. We were highly sensitized to, what does this mean? How will it impact his life and our relationship with him and so forth? Well, when you lose your superpower of earning money and you got what you got when it comes to your wealth, that's scary or can be scary. And what that can cause us to do is, well, I'm scared. I got to go research this. I got to get learned on investing. I got to be up on economic cycles and what's happening in the news. I need to watch CNBC. I need to buy the Wall Street Journal. I need to understand exactly how these intricate strategies all work and which one might work better next time and so forth. It causes us to consume more information a lot of times, which in turn, because a lot of the information of today is really meant to scare you or make you greedy, it can exasperate an issue. Just like when we are dealing with a medical issue, we can get on the web. Doctors hate that. And you can start researching, and there's a lot of great information out there, and there's a lot of quackery out there too that scares you or leads you down lots of really bad paths. So psychologically, losing that superpower can really put you into this kind of cycle, which can lead you to really poor decision making. Now, on the flip side, this is totally a flip side of that, is also we're used to embracing risks, and especially since we've all grown up in really good investment markets, it can cause us to fear of missing out. If we choose to get a lot more conservative in our investment allocation because we can afford to and not take the volatility, I always say that's like being the designated driver at a party. When the party's going on, you feel like you're missing out, and that can lead to bad decisions that way. So that's number 3 as to why investing is different in retirement. The 4th reason is we tend to think in statistics, long-term statistics when it comes to markets. And the problem is we don't eat long-term statistics. And so we'll make decisions on these longer-term statistics, and we just really can't use those for very good decision-making. Even if we're looking at, like we're going to talk about this month, bear markets and down markets, or crashes, which are sort of the bling of bad markets, the things that scare us most. Michael Kitces says it best: retirement withdrawals are more sensitive to bad decades than they are to bad years. And bad decades can simply mean not losing your shirt. It could be just relatively flat earnings. That can be more catastrophic than a 50% decline in a quick period of time, which eventually recovers. And statistics are really good at lying. Like if we take the S&P 500, and I think I've used this stat before. This comes from Dimensional. If we look at it from 1926 to 2018, the average return for the S&P 500 index was around 10%. And if we look at the annual returns for those 93 years, there's only 6 times that it was within 1% either side of that average. So if we make decisions based on averages, it's going to be really frustrating. It is in general, whether you're accumulating or decumulating, but we don't get averages. And so that can change when we are retired is that we got to be careful on how we make decisions. And we're going to try to build a framework for dealing with bad markets and how we invest in retirement throughout this month. And then the last one I want to talk about, the last difference between accumulation and retirement, the last difference in why investing in retirement is different is this is the season of harvesting, of using your wealth to create a life that you really care about and that you can look back on and say, I'm proud of that. I used my wealth and the time freedom that I had in this 10, 20, 30 years of quote unquote retirement. I used it wisely. I was a good steward of that. And I didn't run out of money, but conversely, I didn't die with too much money and realize I had a lot of missed opportunities. And the way that investing is different in retirement is you only get one shot. You get one iteration. It doesn't matter what Monte Carlo scenarios say. 90% confidence level means nothing because that 90% confidence level is from 1,000 different iterations, some of them that failed, and you only get one iteration and you don't know which one it is. So that's very different than when we're younger in life and we have lots of options, lots of flexibility, and lots of do-overs. You're not going to get a do-over. You could take that one step farther, that if you're sitting here at age 60, your iteration is maybe from 60 to 70 when you're the healthiest, most active, most engaged that you may ever be. God willing, that's not true, but that's how we think. So your iteration that's so important is even more straight up in your face. So we don't want to not get this right. We want to minimize the possibilities of getting this right. And I think trying to fit this rectangular way of investing that works for accumulation into this round hole of doing our best to get this one iteration right, it's very different. I think a lot of advisors, a lot of our industry are not evolved in their thinking of this distribution phase enough to appreciate, hey man, we only got one shot at this. Well, let me rephrase. The advisors, they got many shots. They got lots of clients. You only have one shot at this. So we want to be thoughtful about it. So next week, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about bear markets and how they work and how that factors into retirement. But from now, I want to go to answer some of your questions because we're going back to the basics in 2020. And we want to make sure we answer your questions each week. So let's go get back with Nicole. So Nicole, we missed you over the holidays. Did you have a good holiday?
I did. How about you?
Thank you for the new car. I couldn't believe it when the bow was sitting on it outside my...
Oh, my word.
No, you've been a little bit busy.
It has been a little bit busy,
yes,
but in a good way.
In a good way. Now, we reviewed our words from 2019. And since you weren't here for the holidays, we postponed this. What is your word for this year?
I'm kind of torn between two words, but for similar reasons. So maybe you can help me pick one. I either want to do explore or discover. Like we talked about, we had a lot of change come up for our family. And I want to kind of think about what our new normal is going to be and find new places to go and new traditions. And I guess I will share the...
I was going to say, are we allowed to talk about your changes?
Yeah. So we are expecting our third son this summer, which will be awesome, but also a big change. So I kind of want to just focus on finding kind of our new normal next year. And
you moved back home to Austin.
Right. Yeah. Right? We're back in Austin.
And then once little Roger is born,
oh my gosh.
What?
No, I'm sorry. I don't think I'm going to go with that.
Well, we'll have to have a poll later this year, and maybe we can crowdsource some name ideas for you.
Fair enough.
I'm totally joking, obviously. So, discover, or what was the second one?
Explore.
What about traditions? That was the first one that came to mind because you're replanted and you have a lot of new things that you need to get into sync with. I guess explore and discover helps you find the new traditions that you want to make your own.
Yeah, that's kind of what I want to focus on, not maybe being kind of caught up in what we did before and feeling like we have to repeat that here, if that makes sense.
That is a whole month of podcasts on the transition to retirement, by the way. So let's make note of that.
Oh, man, I got so many tips I can give you guys on relocating.
Of not being trapped by what is. But that's a conversation for another day. Discover or explore. Explore sounds more action-oriented. Mm-hmm. So I like that one.
Okay.
Plus,
all right.
X is a cool symbol.
We'll go with explore then.
Okay. I'm struggling too, and usually these come to me. And I think the one that I'm going to choose is unity.
Okay.
Unity. So here's what I'm trying to accomplish with my word. This is the feeling, and what I want to come from the word is we have so much awesome stuff going on in the Rock Retirement Club, on the show, in our advisory business, personally in my life. And I feel like I need to become a Roger 3.0 to be a good steward of that. And so for me, I'm very good at acting, right, Nicole, and making decisions.
You are.
Which is a great skill. But like a wild horse, if it's not reined in, it can be a little tumultuous for the people that you care about and that are on your team, whether that's your family or you and Tracy and BW and everybody else. And a lot of times, Nicole, would you agree with this? I make decisions that create chaos, and I don't want my team to be somebody that cleans up my spur of the moment decisions.
I think unity is a good word for that. But I also think unity is good because sometimes I feel like you can get like in conflict with yourself between like what you want to be doing and what you are doing. And so I think unity can kind of help you marry those two also. So I think that could be a really good word for next year.
Yeah, because there's a lot of demands of wanting things that you could do, but may not be in alignment with what you want for your life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but professionally, I want it to be that I'm not making decisions that are just messing the team up. I want us to make the bigger decisions together so we can be marching the same direction.
I don't think you're messing up anything for us.
No, messing up is not the word I'm looking for. But cleaning up my messes, when I said that earlier offline, you're like, oh, yeah, I get that. And we're bringing a new planner on.
Yes, that's true. That will be a big change. A good one, though.
Yeah, and maybe a junior advisor at some point. You never know. Yeah. So unity is my word. Now, if you've chosen your word, let us know what it is. Hit me up on Twitter if you're a Twitterer at Roger_Whitney, or we're going to...
Is it Twitter or Tweeter? I don't know.
I don't know. But if you say it wrong, you sound like a twit.
True.
But anyway, we'll share our words in 6 Shot Saturday. We would love to hear what your word is and maybe a little bit about why it's important to you. And maybe I'll share some of those anonymously, so I'll protect you, and that might help others on this journey. It's been a pretty big game changer for me. Now, Nicole.
It's the time to get serious and talk about laws.
Well, I think the big upside is Congress actually did something.
Yay!
There was actually unity between the House,
in Congress,
the Senate. Wait, Congress, the Congress, the Senate, the House, the Senate, and the President.
It was a Christmas miracle.
It was a Christmas miracle. And some might not think it's a miracle, but we officially have passed the Secure Act. And they love their acronyms. And I forget what the acronym is for secure, but it wasn't anything that was, it sounded contrived. But there are some important provisions of the Secure Act I want to make sure we mention. You probably have seen this in the news, but I want to make sure you know if you don't. Number one is the required minimum distribution for IRAs. That's the government requirement that when you turn 70 and a half, by April 1st of the following year, you have to take out a certain amount of money based on a life expectancy table. And then that percentage goes up every year. And if you don't do that, there's like a 50% penalty. So it's a big deal. Well, that provision has changed. So now, rather than April 1st, after the year you turn 70 and a half, they've moved that up to 72. So if you are not 70 and a half by today, you have more time. You can wait until you're 72 to have to do your required minimum distribution. Nicole, you look like you're typing. Did you figure out what the acronym is?
I did, and I thought it was kind of lame too, so I was sending it to
What is it?
Setting every community up for retirement enhancement.
Womp womp. That's, yeah. But we did get a reprieve for some on the required minimum distribution. Also, in order to set us up for retirement enhancement. They have repealed the age limit that went along with that 70 and a half of when you can contribute to an IRA. So if you're 71, 72, 75, and you're still working, you can contribute to an IRA and I guess turn around and take an RMD out of it. But so that might enhance your retirement. What will definitely not enhance your legacy planning is they have done away with what is called the stretch IRA. Well, I guess it still stretches, Nicole. It's just not
limited stretching.
It's a very tight rubber band. It doesn't stretch very far. So what a stretch IRA was is when you pass away, if your beneficiary is a non-spouse, traditionally what they could do is they would have to take required minimum distributions even if they were 20 years old, but they could do it on their life expectancy table. And because they're 20 years old or much younger than you, theoretically, they could take little amounts out and really expand the time frame for tax deferral. So the idea was if you pass, you leave money, say, to your son or your grandchild, and they could stretch that out and have money growing for decades because of the life tables. Well, in order to pay for your retirement enhancement, they've done away with that. And they said, no, if it's not a spouse or a minor child, a beneficiary that's not your spouse has to take out the money within 10 years. So if you were to pass today and you were leaving money to your child, they would have 10 years to take out all their distributions, not 20, 30, 40 years. So the IRS is going to get their money a lot quicker. And that's going to help pay for it. And then I'm not sure how this next one's going to play out, Nicole. My first reaction is warning, Will Robertson. They created a safe harbor for 401k providers to allow participants to access annuities in their 401k.
I know you're not huge on annuities.
Well, I mean, they can be appropriate. It's just a tool. What I'm really worried about, and the logic behind it is, and this went along with having disclaimers about the lifetime income. What everybody's worried about is guaranteed sources of income for people in retirement, rather than letting them manage the money and potentially spend it all or make mistakes, which is a lot of times human nature. And so the logic is by allowing annuities in 401ks, they can allow people to secure lifetime income and de-risk behavioral and market decisions. And I get the logic of that. My big worry is that it just opens up a sales cycle of annuity products to people that may not be as educated on their decisions. And I just think it's a recipe for disaster personally, but that's just me. Okay, so that's the Secure Act.
A good time to remind everyone that they are typically salespeople, not always advisors.
Yeah, not fiduciaries. This year in 2020, we are doing questions every week on the show.
Yay!
And we had gone away from that for a while, and this is the answer show, hopefully. So if you have a question, where should they go, Nicole?
RogerWhitney.com/Ask Roger.
And you can type in your question, but we really
even better. You can record your question.
If you want to up your life in 2020, you can leave an audio question, just like Thomas did.
Hi, Roger. I really enjoy listening to your show. I turned 65 this year and recently retired from my full-time job. I've seen quite a few warnings lately about stock market downturns in early retirement wrecking a person's retirement plan. The thought is that a retiree would be forced to sell stock when the stock market is doing poorly. Since the money is no longer invested, you don't get a chance to recover your losses when the market recovers. I believe this general concern is the foundation for the rising equity path solution, which you have discussed recently on your show. I can appreciate this concern if a person is 100% invested in stock. However, I don't know of any financial advisors who actually suggest that a retired person, even in early retirement, would be anywhere near 100% invested. Most seem to advise only about a 50% portfolio in stock, the balance being in bonds. Let's say you decide to pull 3 to 4% out of your portfolio every year to meet RMDs and fund your retirement. In good stock market years, you would sell stock, therefore selling when the market is up, which is a good thing. In bad stock market years, you would sell your bonds instead, giving the stocks a chance to rebound in future years. If the stock market goes down in that year even more than 3 to 4%, you would sell additional bonds to buy more stocks to keep your balance at 50-50. Therefore, you would be buying stock when the markets are down, which is also a good thing. This seems like a good approach to minimize the damage which can result from a falling stock market in early retirement. Am I missing something? Thank you.
Thomas, you make a really good point in that very rarely do you see a retired person invested all in stocks. So when we talk about market crashes or bear markets, we have to define what we're talking about, because normally we're thinking of what's, Nicole? Stocks, right?
Stocks, yes.
Yeah, when you think of a bear market, you think of stocks. But normally we're not invested just in stocks. We have a balanced portfolio, whatever the percentage is. And so we're going to examine that with some examples this month as we walk through how to make your retirement income more sustainable. So I think you make a very good point, and you really outlined how rebalancing works. And I think one core premise here that we have to acknowledge, Thomas, is one, the 5 reasons that retirement are different, which we've gone over. But also we have to think of the main objective in retirement, which is to provide a consistent, predictable income. And when that's your main objective and you only have one shot at it, we really don't have the luxury of waiting indefinitely for markets to recover. And generally, when we think of markets going down, we think of the bad markets, but it could be just really crappy markets where it's 0, 1, 2% type of returns consistently. It doesn't have to be the dramatic ones. And simply using, say, your 4% withdrawal methodology, which is very popular because it's simple, that's not really going to provide consistent, predictable income. And again, we'll show examples of that this year. And we also have to think about how we spend in retirement. In retirement, especially early retirement, Thomas, at least my experience, what people convey to me is that they want to live as well as they can early when they're healthy and young. They want to make the most of that early part of retirement, because I think more than any other generation, they want to be in the playground, and they realize they've seen the other end with their parents when they can no longer do things, and they want to make sure that they take advantage of that early stage. Well, that is in direct conflict with being okay later on from a monetary standpoint. If you spend more now, you're going to have less resources later on. And the key is trying to find the balance between all of those things. And so what ends up happening is nobody ever spends 4% a year. Cash flows are very lumpy year by year. When I model out cash flows with clients, I've seen years when they're 8% withdrawals from their financial assets or less than 1% because of some of that lumpiness. And so using a 4% rule and just thinking that we can do that to moderate investment risk doesn't take us far enough in order to meet the goals. So I think we need more than just a balanced portfolio. And we're going to talk about that. And this will be the last show of this 5-week month. Is Nicole, do you know what we get to do in week 5 of January?
I should know because I organize all the titles for this month. But right now I don't.
So when we think of allocations, we think of pie charts.
Oh, your pie cake. Yes.
Yes, we think of pie charts. What is my allocation? And you mentioned 50-50. Thomas. Well, when you're in retirement, it's not about pie. It's about cake. And you know what, Nicole? This might make people feel they don't want this because they just went through the holidays and eating too much. It's not just about pies. It's not just about cakes. It's about a cake made of pies. Wow.
Yeah, right now that's not sounding terribly appealing to me.
So we're gonna outline what we mean by that, because I think that's how we need to think of asset allocation and withdrawal rates in retirement. So stay tuned for that, Thomas, and thank you so much for the great question.
Huh? What does that mean?
So we're reintroducing, Nicole, the What Does That Mean segment. What do you think about that? Do you know what that means?
What does that mean?
It means we're going to talk about a term and just make sure we all understand what a term means so we can all be smarter. We got to get smart.
That's a good thing to do in a new year.
It's a good thing to do. And we're going to try to form these around the themes for the year because we have all those planned out. So this week, we are going to define what sequence of return risk is. So sequence of return risk, and Thomas referenced that in his question, is critical when we're thinking about retirement. So if you take out a Excel spreadsheet and you want to assume, let's say you get a 5% return, usually what you'll do in your model, because it's easy, is just say, okay, I'm going to get a 5% return on my assets. So you'll say year 1, 5%, year 2, 5%, and so on. Investments don't work that way. So if you use a linear, I get 5% every year, and that's your assumption, your return assumption, and you do a calculation that way, most likely it's going to overestimate the results. And the reason is because in the real world, we have what's called sequence of returns. You may average 5% for 5 years, but your returns could be very different. Maybe you get 0% in year 1 and then 10% in year 2 and so forth. So the sequencing of those returns can dramatically impact your end wealth, especially, well, really, if you have withdrawals coming out. And that's a big risk in retirement because we're usually accessing our financial capital. So the sequencing of returns is a concern because if you have all the bad returns up front, which can happen, then you're drastically going to impact the long-term viability of your plan. So that's one reason why we talk about and are worried about down markets, bear markets, and so forth. Even blah markets, because if you're taking money out, and we'll show some examples, depending on the sequence of return you get, it could totally impact the way you rock retirement.
Just in case there's any new listeners that are listening, we should probably throw in, if you want to see those examples, make sure you sign up for 6 Shot Saturday.
That is a good point. Sign up for 6 Shot Saturday, which is our weekly email where we give a summary of the show and share quick tips and have conversations with listeners like you. With that, Nicole, let's go set a smart sprint.
Let's do it.
On your marks, get set.
And we're off to set a little baby step that we can take over the next 7 days to rock 2020.
You nailed that. Way to go.
Because I'm unified and ready to rock 2020 myself. So in the next 7 days, if you haven't, I want you to decide on a word. And you don't have to write it down. You don't have to share it with anybody, but I want you to have a guiding light for this year. And I know we made this a smart sprint before, Nicole, but it's really made a difference in my life. And I think it will in yours too. Bum, bum, bum. Hey.
We made it to the end.
We leave it to the end for you. Don't take advice from us. We're going to be talking about indexes and taxes and all sorts of things, but you can't invest in indexes. We're not tax advisors. We're not financial. Well, we are financial advisors. I am a financial advisor.
We are, but we don't know you.
I am not your financial advisor. That's the important thing. So don't take advice from me and talk to the people that are your advisors, because that's really just common sense.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of Retirement Answer Man. Be sure to visit rogerwhitney.com/answers to access the Retirement Answer Library with over 30 checklists to help you make the most of the only life you have. Remember, you have more power than you realize to create an amazing life starting today with Retirement Answer Man. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Have a wonderful day.